What's up, guys? Mike the Cop, and today I am honored to have my friend who is better looking, he is smarter, he is more badass, he is more popular, he is probably one step closer to world leadership than I am. He has his own show on CRTV. He destroys Facebook regularly and breaks algorithms. He has amazing wisdom. He looks good in swimsuits or in American flag apparel. And he also likes Black Rifle coffee and guns. And am I missing anything, Graham?
I think that could be the most complete thing that anyone's ever said about me ever, man.
Graham Allen, ladies
none
and
of
gentlemen.
That's true. Absolutely none of the good parts are true. None of them.
Seriously, guys, Graham is joining us today to chat, and I honestly I couldn't be happier. I'm so honored that he would be willing to come in and talk to me and hang out. And so welcome, Graham. How are you?
Thanks, man. You know, a lot of people don't know the history of me and you. A lot of people don't realize that me and you started kind of chatting back and forth with each other when both of us kind of were just starting to get started on this whole thing. And so
yeah,
it's been
probably
really
like
cool.
the 50,000-60,000 people range on Facebook.
Yeah, just starting, man. And so it's been really cool to I've been if I can toot your horn for a minute, I've been super impressed with you because, and I'm sure it's been the same on your end, people that we thought were our friends when we first started. As things progressed and as things got bigger, it turned out that other people had other ill intentions or jealousy kicked in and all this other kind of stuff. But man, you've been really the same person, through the entire thing of all this. And so, you're a good guy, man. I'm glad to be here.
Ah, well, thank you. And now the top comments on YouTube are going to be about our first 2-minute circle jerk.
Yeah,
what that's going to be.
Yeah, we have definitely laid it on pretty thick here the first couple minutes. So.
Listen, I didn't realize until last night as I was sitting there, my underpaid producer, aka my son, and I were up late watching The Equalizer, the original, because I was getting ready for the second one to come out, and
right.
So we picked the movie last night to watch, and we're watching that, and I got done, and I started, opened up Instagram and. People had already started posting because it was like 12:30 at night. People already started posting stuff about 9/11, and I was like, "Oh man, I didn't think about the fact that you were going to be coming on today, and it's 9/11." So that obviously, before we get into what we sort of planned on talking about, I'm curious where were you 9/11? What impact did that have on you? How did it play into any military service that that you were engaged in or would be engaged in? So I'm curious.
Well, actually, 9/11 changed my whole life, like I'm sure it did a lot of Americans. I was in high school still when 9/11 happened, and I was in Mississippi Studies. Yes, that's a real class in Mississippi.
A thing?
That's a real thing. You learn about corn and all kinds of stuff. And I was in Mississippi Studies when it happened, and I remember our principal came over the intercom and basically stopped class, because the towers had been struck by the second plane at this point. That's when we found out was when the second plane had hit. And but the real story that kind of changed my life because of 9/11 didn't happen till the next period. So second period, I go into biology, and my biology teacher was a first sergeant in the National Guard. And so I remember, and this, isn't a story I'm proud of, but I was a kid, I was stupid, I was a teenager. There was a scene that happened, there was a mess up on the news scene, and like some funny noise had been heard or something, and me and a couple buddies in the back started giggling that there was this, this funny noise that had happened on the thing. And I'll never forget that my biology teacher turned around and he basically, I'll let the imagination run wild on what happened there. But he pretty much, I'll never forget, he said, "Do you realize what has just happened? This is going to change everything." And it wasn't but a couple months later that he with his guardian, he was gone for the next year and a half. And so I had never even really thought about or even I'd always respected the military as a kid because I was raised in the South, but I had never really thought about it ever until that happened. And
Yeah.
so it was that day and getting reamed out for being a stupid teenage punk that really kind of changed my thought process. And then, I mean, a couple years later, I enlisted and I was in Iraq myself.
So do you look back, and I've had this conversation with a couple of first responders in New York. Do you look back at 9/11 and think that was sort of like a catalyst or the catalyst for you deciding I'm going to enlist and do something?
I think it wasn't the de facto thing. Like I, at 15 or 16, however old I was when it happened, I didn't say right then I'm joining.
Yeah.
But it was definitely the catalyst that opened up the idea and the conversation for the first time. I wish I could say it was true patriotism, but a girl was involved when I actually did end up enlisting. But
Right.
but no, it was definitely the first time that I ever started thinking, maybe I need to do something to contribute, kind of deal. So it definitely changed my life completely.
Yeah. Yeah. I was out of the country. I actually lived in Costa Rica for a year.
Oh, really?
And I was teaching at a small Christian school there. It was sort of like, it was just a 1-year commitment to do so.
Yeah.
And we were there, and I remember I passed somebody out in like I would call it like a quad, some type of like common area, and he's another North American guy, and he's like, hey, sounds like some type of plane flew into one of the Twin Towers. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, it sounds like maybe like a prop plane got, we don't, kind of like a minor thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. I'm like, and we remember talking like, how would a small, like a prop plane or something like that get so lost as to fly into a building in New York City? Like that, something must have really gone wrong with the plane, that kind of a thing. And then I remember them coming back to the room, says, you need to come in here. And like they had wheeled in a TV into the office and stuff. And then like we watched the second plane fly into the tower, and it was like,
right.
Holy cow. Like this is, you growing up reading or hearing about Pearl Harbor in history class, you don't really understand the impact. You see it in a book, and you kind of see that some people in your lives get it, but you don't really feel the impact. But now you look at something like 9/11 in our lifetime, and like you get it,
Yeah. No, completely.
So yeah, I remember feeling. I don't know what I felt per se. Not like I need to fly home or something like that and do something, but I do remember feeling a sense of obviously like national pride and being sort of like on the edge of my seat every day, waiting to see how are we going to respond to this? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
What is, how do we sort of like right this wrong kind of a thing?
Exactly.
And it was crazy. It was crazy to see the reaction in another country. I mean, it was their front page news too. It really was a global event.
It was.
Crazy. So I was bummed this morning because I wanted to post a picture that I took because I went to the 9/11 memorial before, and all my pictures are on a different hard drive. So, but I encourage everybody that listens, if you've never been to the 9/11 memorial or whatever else, you
gotta go. Every time I go to New York, it's one of the first places that I go. I've been multiple times now, but every time. When I saw you in New York, I had just gone to the 9/11. I go every single time I go to New York. So
that reminds me, I owe you dinner.
I was telling Chad that I saw him in Nashville this past weekend. Chad Prather, for those watching, and I told him, I said we gotta have a New York trip reunion. Again, and all of us meet up and have dinner at the Italian place and go on our date and everything.
Yeah, I get to see Chad October 5th, I think, when he comes into town for one of his shows.
Okay, so, all right, yeah. It was a fun time, man. It's cool to see him in his true element, right?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see the show.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It was a good time. I enjoyed it. It was my first stand-up uh, opportunity, and so it was a lot of fun.
Nice. So you did stand up?
Oh yeah, I went out there. I went out there, and we did kind of this thing to where Chad did his routine, like because it's his show,
Right,
right? And,
right.
and so he did his whole spiel or set or whatever it's called in the comedy world. And then we did the. Have you ever seen the original Blue Collar Comedy Tour thing
Oh
with Jeff
man.
Foxworthy,
Yeah,
Rome?
I think I've seen it like on a special on TV or whatever. It's been a while.
Okay, yeah, it was a long time ago. But what they did was, they had each guy come out individually, and then at the very end, for about 20 or 30 minutes, they all pulled stools up and sat down and kind of just told stories and went back and forth. So we kind of did that kind of thing. So he called me out there. I pulled the stool up, we sat down, and we just kind of just went back and forth for about 30 minutes. It was a good time. I think the audience really enjoyed it.
Nice.
Everybody was laughing. So it was a good test the waters kind of thing to see if I would just completely bomb out there on
Right.
stage.
Yeah,
So
I've done I'll do like events, but they're all usually cop related. So
right,
I know that I can stand up in front of a group of cops or, people knowledgeable about the police world and
right,
crack jokes or whatever else, or kind of like have a bit that they'll get, you
right,
know.
right.
Because Chad was like, "Oh, you should get up on stage and do something sometime," and I'm like, I don't think that most people are gonna get me. I would go make fun of state trooper hats or something like that, and everybody else in the crowd's gonna be like, "What? I don't know what that means." What?
Well, a lot of our audiences, mine and Chad's, are women actually, and so a lot of people don't realize that a majority of our audiences are women. And so I found that if I just tell stories about, real stories about my kids or my marriage and things, I mean, everybody thinks it's hilarious. So, I don't come up with any real jokes. I just literally just say what happened on Tuesday, and
Right?
everybody thinks it's funny. So
Nice.
lucked out a little bit in that way.
So one of the when I thought about what I wanted to talk to you about, and I cycled through a lot of topics, but
I'm ready.
recently, and I would say recently, like last few months, you've had a couple of different videos, a couple of different topics that
Yep.
have rubbed some people the wrong way because you expressed in some way your faith.
Yeah. Hmm.
So it led me to a bunch of questions because I've recently started. I've never I don't think hidden my faith in
Right.
my content, but I've been much more purposeful. I feel over the last few months
Yeah.
in saying things that I hadn't said before, or like every Sunday now I post something that is faith related, and I just caption it Sunday, and I just put it out there, and I haven't interacted a crazy amount in the comments with that, but always gonna get somebody talking about, making fun of Christianity or saying
Yeah.
something back to me like, I didn't follow you for, to be indoctrinated or whatever. I get, how it is. It's like I can't post
Yeah.
any. I even post on the 9/11 post I did today. Somebody said fake news and stuff. There is no post, and I'm sure you're the exact same way. There is no post. There is nothing that I could ever say that I'm not going to get somebody in there.
Yeah.
Like I posted a meme about carpet. Like there was a sign that said like your whole carpet for $99
Oh, yeah, I
or
saw
something
that.
like.
I saw that. That was funny.
There's people in there talking about, oh, are you going to keep pretending that everything's peachy with the police? And I'm like, I just can't. I can't
Yeah.
post anything that's not going to get hate.
Right.
But you've done this, and I'm curious from your perspective. Was it intentional that you were starting to share more about your faith? What was the catalyst for that? And yeah, let's just start there.
Well, obviously you're talking about the tattoo video.
Yeah.
Yeah, that video is. I'm told that it is a very rare video that gets over 100 million views, right?
Uh-huh.
And so we just broke 100 million views on that video, and
Nice.
and so I'm told that that's a rare achievement in the Facebook world. That's what I'm told. And so, but that video, man, was so random, and it was so just kind of happened. I'll tell you the story really quick of that video and what happened. So the lady that said that to me, everybody thinks that like some woman just came up to me in a store and said it. No, it was actually a Twitter comment that I saw. Some lady posted a Twitter comment, and that's kind of what led to me responding to it. But what had happened was Southern's coming up.
That was Mississippi Studies right there.
Yeah, that was. So July 2nd is when I posted that video. And you know this, it was actually I should have never have done it, because July 3rd, I had already videotaped, edited, and had ready to go my 4th of July video that was going to post the day before the 4th of July. So from a algorithm standpoint, that's a no-no. You know,
Right.
You don't ever post a video right before you're supposed to post another video, because they'll cannibalize each other,
Right.
and it just won't work, right? You know, and so it was the morning of July 2nd. I was in the gym. I was working out, getting ready to come into the office. And I don't know, man. It just rubbed me kind of, away. I wasn't mad about it. It just, it was like, wow, I think that I could say something. And so I called my producer. I said, hey, man, I'm fixing to throw an audible. I feel like I've got to record this, and I'm going to drop it today. And, I don't think it's going to do very well, because it's so far outside of what I normally do.
Yeah.
But it's just something I feel like I got to say. And so I edited it, I put it up, and I dropped it. And I'll say this, in the first hour, it had 14,000 shares, which isn't by any means the fastest shared video I've ever had.
Right.
I've had some hit 30,000 in the first hour, depending on what it's about. And so I was like, that's pretty solid. But I'll tell you this, and this is a story a lot of people don't know. I actually sat there, and there was just something about this video that just kept like messing with me in here. And I even prayed, and it was one of those situations. I've never done this before, and I just said, God, if this is something that you feel like you can use, then I just pray that you just let it go, just let it go. And I've never done that before, ever. And now 1.5 million shares later, that's my top video that I've ever done. We gained like 1 million followers in a week off that video. And it's just, it's changed everything. And I truly believe it's because it wasn't me that said the words. And that's what I tell everybody. Chad even said, I've never heard a more eloquently worded video for the point. And I said, well, then it wasn't me that said it, because I can't do something that well. But on the flip side, it opened a lot of doors, but it also opened a lot of hate too, because what happened with that is apparently you can't be a Christian and also be a Trump supporter at the same time. And so with that video brought a lot of new people to the pages and a lot of this, but then the second that they found out that I was a Trump supporter, man, it just brought on a whole new level of hate and aggression and threats and all this kind of stuff. So, it's good and it's bad, man. The bigger you get, the more people hate you. And the bigger you get, the more people that have the exact opposite viewpoints of you come after you. We talked about this the other day. I've got other social media platforms that watch me now. And the second I drop a video, they make a video about me and how
Right.
much of a racist I am or how terrible I am, and all this other kind
They're
of
not
stuff.
good enough to come up with their own content, so they gotta
Exactly.
leech off of yours. Like, oh, hey, this
Yeah,
guy's
yeah.
really popular. If I comment on his videos, I'll get popular with my
Yeah,
opinion.
or if I make a video talking about how horrible Graham Allen is, I'll get 2 million views out of it. He got 18 million, but I'm gonna use anyway. So I'm told by my management that that's a good thing. It means you're doing things the right way. But it still hurts, man. Me and you have had private conversations, and that's the thing that I think people don't realize is they see guys like me and you, and we seem like it just brushes off. Truth is, it sucks, man. I mean, nobody wants to be hated, not really. And so, there are days where, I've texted you that there's days where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just, did I do something wrong? Am I on the wrong track?
Yeah.
And so, It's a strange world that I don't think people realize.
Yeah, there's days, man, where you just gotta kind of like, you get tired. You get tired. You
Hmm.
just like, I
I
can't
don't
look at
want to do a
this. I need
video.
to, yeah, don't want to do a video. I need to take a break. Just like, oh man, and you just kind of like, but then obviously like we're now in an environment where content creation is that's how we live, right? Like we
Uh,
gotta make content or
yep.
we don't eat. So it's one of those things where it's tough. But yeah, I that that was like a huge deal. And honestly, it was one of those things that inspired me to start being a little bit more vocal about my faith. And like I said, I hadn't been hiding it. I just
Yeah.
hadn't, my content about law enforcement and culture typically, it's not necessarily about that, really. It
Yeah.
doesn't, I have to be really purposeful to bring in an issue of faith because it's just not usually what the news is talking about when it comes to
Right.
cops.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So there's the occasional post where, oh, this department has "In God We Trust" on their cars. Should that be there? That kind of a thing. So it's not like it's never there, but so yeah, that video of yours and your willingness to put yourself out there definitely like inspired me to be like, you know what, I want to be more purposeful with that because
true. Yeah.
I think people are under this weird assumption that even if you're not a Christian, that your beliefs don't have an impact on the rest of your life.
Right.
I mean, but everybody believes something,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Everybody.
This is
yeah.
what
Even to believe nothing is
right.
still
Like
you still believe in something.
everybody
even if
has
it's nothing.
a way that they see the world. If you
Right.
don't have some way to frame in how you understand the world, you're probably clinically insane. Because
Right.
What else are you doing with your life if you don't have a way to categorize what is good, what is bad, how to process death and destruction and things like 9/11? When you have no way to process that, like I don't know, I don't understand like how
Michael
you could,
Myers at that point.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so what's funny is people seem to hate on Christianity.
Yeah.
While we're supposed to be tolerant of all kinds of other religions, but
Yeah.
for some reason, if you say that you're a Christian, then all of a sudden you believe in fairy tales, or you're a bigot, you're a racist because you're a Christian, all this other stuff, which is just sort of funny to me to see people saying we should be tolerant of all beliefs, but when you express your belief, then all these people who say that you're supposed to be tolerant all of a sudden are not very tolerant of you.
Right.
What
Well,
kind of conversations have you had about that?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and make everybody mad really quick when I say that a majority of Christians or people that claim to be Christians are cowards.
Yeah.
And what I mean when I say that is, a majority of Christians are these people that, they go to church every Sunday night, they go to Wednesday night service, they do small groups. But when it comes into going out of their comfort zone, which if you're a real Christian is actually the whole point of Christianity, right? The whole point of Christianity is not to find a relationship with God yourself and then not share it with anybody.
Mhm.
Like the point of Christianity is to go out and to spread the word and to associate with people that are, if you believe the Bible, lost in their way that they're living. But somehow Christians have become scared and afraid to do that. And what happens is, they end up forming this clique that is Christianity. You're not welcome here. Yeah, you can't associate. I had a situation to where, and I think I told you about this, I'm not sure. I went out with the local church. The local church wanted to feed all the first responders in our community. And, the fire departments, all the, sheriff's deputies and all the city cops. But they were short on money. They couldn't afford it. So my foundation partnered with them and we footed the bill to be able to pay all this stuff, so we could feed everybody. And that was on a Saturday. Monday morning, the church got an email basically stating that they cannot believe that the church would partner with somebody as terrible as me And because they're such a good Christian that they're a superior Christian, because the church partnered with me to feed all the first responders, they're no longer going to go to that church because they're not going to associate with, somebody that would, associate with somebody as low as me, right?
Oh, yeah.
That entire thought process is the exact opposite of what Christianity is actually supposed to be. To believe that you're this superior thing because you have a relationship with God, which if you had a true relationship with God, you wouldn't think that. And
Right.
so, yeah, the other big thing that I hear now, Mike, and I'm sure you get this a lot too, because me and you, we talk about the things that a lot of people don't want to talk about. Not really. I mean, they think it in their mind, but they don't want to speak it because of backlash.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of where we live. We live in that world of, we're going to say what we're going to say because we feel as though it needs to be said. A lot of people will, the big negative comment I get is, well, you claim to be a Christian, but yet you're calling out all these things, and aren't you in fact judging people and all this other kind of stuff? And my response to that is, show me a place in the Bible where Jesus was concerned about hurting people's feelings.
Right.
Jesus didn't care 1 second about hurting your feelings. He cared about telling you the truth, right?
Yeah.
Like that was the whole point. He didn't care if you got mad or not. The Bible I read, Jesus laid the smackdown on some tax collectors once. You know what I mean? And so, but people don't want to believe that they want to believe in this, fairy tale Jesus that loves everybody. And it's like the Care Bears and nobody gets upset. And,
Right.
Nobody has this and everybody loves each other. And if you believe in God, everything's going to be fine and tranquility and all this stuff. The Bible don't say nothing about that. In fact, the Bible says if you're a Christian, buddy, it is coming your way all the time, because that's part of the whole deal. It would be easy to be a Christian if life became super easy once you became a Christian, right? Like where
Right.
where would the testament of faith come in at all if it was this super easy thing to do and live by?
Yeah.
But nobody wants to talk about those things.
Yeah, I'm finding a lot of similarities when it comes to the conversations about faith, the Christian faith, as it is when I talk about law enforcement, because so much of what I talk about in the law enforcement world is really all about perception.
Right.
People can throw out something like, well, if cops would stop shooting unarmed black men, and be like, well, hold on a second, man. And it usually you just got to bring it back to the facts, right? Okay, so which unarmed person are you talking about? Well, I don't know. There's a lot. Okay, so here we have the first problem. You're so passionate about this that you don't even know a single name.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
you dial it back to the facts. The same thing is true in the Christian faith. They fight back almost at a straw man. They're fighting against a version of Christianity that's not even real, right? Like not even not real Christianity. And I know a lot of people are probably going to watch this and be like, you must be so special because you have the real Christianity. We don't. No. We're both saying, just open your Bible and read it, and like it's right there. But there's a lot of misperceptions about what Christianity is by both people who claim to be Christians. Or maybe they're casual Christians, or I don't know what to say. Like they kind of like, yeah, I believe in Jesus, but they've invested nothing of their lives into learning about who Jesus is or what following Jesus looks like. Or certainly haters who are critical of Christianity, but they're critical of maybe a version of it that they've seen that is bastardized, that isn't real, that's been misrepresented. Just like having an encounter with a bad cop. Like, yes, you had an encounter with a bad cop, and that guy should be disciplined or not be a cop or whatever it is. But the other 99 that are around the corner, if you were paying attention, are showing you what a good one is. And so there's how do you think that plays in your experience to all this?
I think it plays in with a lot of things, man. Real quick, and I'll get back to the original thing. You can put that one situation to account for the 99% in everything. One of the biggest hits I got on my most recent video talking about Colin Kaepernick, of all people, is, one of the favorite things that people try to do is they try to say, well, Graham, you're an idiot because a Green Beret told Colin Kaepernick to take a knee and that it was all right, right?
Right.
And so that was Nate Boyer, by the way, which I love Nate Boyer. He's an amazing veteran, Green Beret, have a tremendous amount of respect for the guy. But first of all, that story is tainted because Nate Boyer didn't say kneeling was a respectful thing. He actually said kneeling was a less disrespectful thing. It was a less disrespectful thing. And there's this infamous picture of Nate Boyer standing next to Colin Kaepernick with his hand over his heart while Colin Kaepernick kneeled. If Nate Boyer believed that to be a true, most respectful thing to do,
he would have knelt.
He would have knelt, right? But what people want to do is they want to say, well, Nate Boyer told Colin Kaepernick it was okay. Well, okay, that's one veteran. And that's one veteran's opinion. Nate Boyer doesn't speak for all of the veteran community, much like I don't speak for all of the veteran community. So for you to use that argument, you're actually doing the very thing that you're claiming that you hate in general. Well, there's one black person that's bad, all of them are bad. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it falls in the same line. So it goes back into the Christian conversation as well. A lot of people will tell me, well, this one interaction I had with this Christian person was terrible, so I'm never going back. Well, that's ridiculous. I had a conversation with Phil Robertson, actually. Which
I was going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you about, because maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't want to derail you from your train of thought.
No, go ahead.
Was sitting down with Phil Robertson as much of a slap in the face about just raw truth as I think it would be? And two, what was the timing of that compared to the tattoo video? Because I'm curious if that was really a catalyst in your life for being more open about your faith. I don't know if it was or wasn't. I'm curious.
Yeah. So to talk to Phil Robertson, it's difficult not to get him to talk about Jesus. Hey, Mr. Phil, what kind of gas you running this thing? Well, let me tell you about the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. Kind of thing. It's like, whoa, Mr. Phil, I just want to know, is it diesel? Is it, what is it? And, but no, it was really cool. I mean, that man is going to tell you what he believes about Jesus and the Bible, no matter what question you ask. I mean, he is always going to turn it into the Christian, conversation. And, I think, through theology and all this stuff, it's just like politics. If you dig long enough at a person, even if you agree with 99% of what they say, you're going to find something that you don't exactly 100% line up on, right? Mm-hmm. Well, it's the same thing with Christians, because I think, and this is something that Mr. Phil said, the Bible says where two or more are gathered. The Bible doesn't say nothing about mega churches. The Bible doesn't say nothing about, youth events. T.D. Jakes said it best when he said, if Jesus was here today, we'd have to kind of explain church to Jesus because, Jesus ain't never seen a tithe offering. Jesus ain't never seen VIP parking. No, Jesus, you can't sit over here. This is for the new people. You got to sit over there. Jesus don't know nothing about.
It's kind of like a funny video idea when you think about Jesus visits church, what would that be like?
Yeah. And so, what we view as church today is not what church was related to necessarily back when all of this started, right? And so, Mr. Phil said it best. We've lost the ability for the personal relationship with God, right? Because that's the most important thing there, right? You can go to church all day. If you don't have a personal relationship with God, what are you doing? What are you doing? And so anytime you put the primary focus as a personal relationship or a personal feelings or interactions, there's going to be differences between every single person. Every single person's relationship with God is different. Every single person's convictions from certain things are different. I know some Christians that don't listen to secular music because they're convicted of that. I personally don't believe there's anything wrong with, AC/DC and listening to it and all that kind of stuff. But there are other Christians who would completely disagree.
You're on a highway to hell, Graham.
Yeah, exactly. and I know other Christians that will not touch alcohol in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I'll drink a beer with somebody any day. Yeah, I mean, but that's just something that I'm not personally convicted on because I don't believe there's anything. I believe, if you read the Bible, there's things wrong with becoming completely intoxicated and things like that. But another talk for another day. The point is we've lost the focus on personal relationships with God, and we've put it more on this. This is what Christianity is supposed to be like, and this is what we believe it to look like. And if you don't fit that mold, you don't look a certain way, you don't talk a certain way, you don't live in a certain area, you don't tithe a certain amount, when they think you should, which tithe is actually 10% of total, not, 10% of gross, but that's another conversation for another day as well. Man, people just tear it apart and they lose the whole idea that's supposed to be church and fellowship in the first place, which is people and people coming together and loving on one another, because life sucks, man. Life is hard. It ain't fun 80% of the time. And, and it's hard enough without Christian people making it even harder for somebody to go through life. And that's just, man, I'm awful hard on Christians. I am. And I am a not great Christian, and I'm very open and honest about that. I try my best to be the best person I can, but I wrong people every day, man. I don't handle situations the way I should. I get mad. I yell at my kids when I shouldn't. I mean,
you promised me a barrel of whiskey on your show and never sent it.
I promised you a barrel of whiskey. Well, in my defense, you still haven't sent me an address, but it's hard to mail something. But that's the point, man. I think I said a video one time, stop acting like you're perfect. And, and that goes a long way. But going back to your second question, did that lead to the tattoo video? Kind of. I will say that the same crew that does my show is the same production company that does Phil Robertson's show. Mm-hmm. And so there was actually a member of the crew that said, I really think that you should talk about your faith more. And I was really opposed to it at first because, once you open that door, mm-hmm. there's no closing that door. You know what I mean? And so I was really hesitant about it, but they were just talking about, the Robertson family success and all that stuff and how God had blessed them because, they were just relentlessly set on what they believed, and what they felt, what they thought. And so I will say that conversation, not so much the Mr. Phil one. I mean, I was very impressed with Mr. Phil and just, his whole demeanor and everything. But that conversation probably led more to me eventually talking about it. And to put it full circle, since that video, I've started speaking in churches now that I never thought would happen, and all this stuff. So it has definitely done more good than harm for me, So
yeah, I think part of what has, if I've been held back, I guess, in sharing my faith, it is probably, you said you're not a good Christian. I feel the same way. Mm-hmm. The Apostle Paul says in the New Testament that Jesus Christ came to save sinners, of whom I'm chief. And I feel like I really identify with that. I look at my own self and I'm like, bro, I suck. I suck at being a Christian. And I look at I think I've been, I don't know if fearful is the right word. Hesitant is true, because I don't want people to look at me and think I'm saying I've got it all figured out, but because I'm sharing my faith that you should be like me, and that's been, I think, the big thing for me. I would probably talk even more about my faith, more about these topics. Maybe I need another avenue for that. Maybe not Mike the Cop. Maybe it's another channel. Maybe it's another project, another thing. But I still kind of like, I just don't want people looking at me like, don't judge Jesus by me. Other than the fact that I need grace and forgiveness a lot.
Well, I think the first thing that I would say in response to that, Mike, is I think that if a Christian thinks that they're a good Christian, they're probably not a good Christian. Because I will say, and this is something that I spoke at a men's conference just last month at a church in Texas. I said that I believe the closer that you get to God and your relationship with God, actually the worse you feel about your performance as a Christian daily, because you become more and more convicted of the things that you're doing wrong
Yeah.
every day, right? So we're supposed to be dependent upon God. That plain and simple. We're taught in our culture to be independent in everything, which to an extent that's good, but it's the opposite with Christianity. Christianity, we're supposed to be dependent upon God, because if you truly believe the Bible, then we have nothing in our possession that wasn't allowed to be so or provided so through skills or talents that God gave us in the first place, right? So by very definition, to be dependent on something means that you're not very good at it on your own, right? Or you wouldn't be dependent. And that's where we get things mixed up, man, is we feel like we have to be awesome to be able to talk about it. And it's supposed to be the exact opposite. And, I welcome people that are real people and that struggle and that have their problems, and they're trying not to cuss, but by God, they stubbed their toe and they said more in 5 minutes than we've said in a week. I welcome those kind of things because that's real, and those are the real people. These self-righteous people that act like they do everything right and blah 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 blah, probably having affairs. They've probably got porn all over the place. They're probably cheating on their taxes, all this stuff. I mean, you see it every single day. I will take an honest sinner than a lying saint any day.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
I just made that up. I'm going to trademark it.
Yeah, put that down somewhere. Yeah, don't let anybody take that phrase. Yeah, man. I think what you're doing is encouraging other people, and yeah, I think I told you this the other day. Like, this is why I think we need each other in terms of, because it's not always easy to deal with the negativity, and you gotta have someone that you can kind of, I don't know, be in the boat with. And so
that's biblical too, man. I mean, you're going down all kind of biblical things. There's talking. Don't ask me what scripture it is. It basically talks about the devil is like a lion, right?
Yeah.
Not he is a lion. He's like a lion. And what he does, what does a lion do when they hunt? They don't go after a pack, right? They look for that straggler that's in the back by themselves. Well, the devil does the same thing. So when we as Christians don't connect together and are not together in fellowship and all that other kind of stuff, and we're off on our own, that's when the devil works in here, because that's where he goes. He goes right here. Devil ain't got nothing to do with this. This is all God's, man. The devil works in here. And when we are alone and we're by ourselves and we let the world get at us, and we start listening to the naysayers and stuff, that's when we become vulnerable, and that's when bad things start to happen. So like you said, man, now more than ever, people like us and conservatives, Christians, whatever you want to call it, whatever this is that we have found ourselves into, I think you can agree, just like I can, it's not what it was when it first started. Mm-hmm. When it first started, it was a gimmick. I was the Daily Rants guy, and you were Mike the Cop, and you made parody videos about being a cop, and I made videos making fun of guys in the gym and all this other kind of stuff. It has slowly started to mold into something different, and I believe it's because of convictions that have been put on our hearts, because we have these platforms. So now we don't want it just to be a gimmick. We want it to mean something.
Right.
I believe that now more than ever that is becoming more prominent and more relevant, because our country and our society, if you're really paying attention, man, it is like this. It is like two sides that are shifting against each other all the time. And, I wish that I could tell you that I think it's going to get better. If you read the Bible, it actually says things are going to get a lot worse, before they get better. And I think now more than ever, guys like you, guys like myself, and other Christians and conservatives, whatever you want to call it, need to stand together now more than ever, because I think that we've been given these platforms for a reason, man. I refuse to believe that it's for no reason.
Yeah.
And so that's just what I think. And I'm sure conspiracy theorist people are going to love that part. But
yeah. So I think that brings me to sort of a way to round it out, which is we talk about platforms, right? It's so easy on social media to get the impression when people look at us on social media that this is, I guess, a full representation of our lives, our wins, our our losses, whatever else. Again, it's something else that you're really good at is you share like, hey, I'm struggling with mentally or emotionally right now, and you put that out there, and so that's good. I think the whole phrase "actions speak louder than words," right? How do we as both, I think, Christian or not, like content creators, but Christian content creators, how do we make that jump, do you think, from just saying words on a screen for people or captions on a photo or whatever else? How do we make that jump to the next level of making a real impact, like real differences, real change, showing people in action that we believe in what we're saying? What can we do better? How do we take the next step to be better at that, do you think?
Well, the first part of what you said about being, transparent and everything, I hate to use this reference because this is probably a horrible movie to try to use as a reference for this. But there's a scene in 8 Mile where at the very end they're doing that last little rap battle.
Yeah.
And Eminem does his part, and he's basically talking down about himself the whole time.
Yeah.
And then he says at the very end, go ahead and tell them something that they don't already know about me. Right. Yeah. And I think that's relevant, actually. If you portray this, everything's perfect, I'm awesome, mentality all the time, well, then people are going to look for and they're going to jump on the first opportunity that they can to say, see, this guy ain't perfect. Look at him, blah, 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 blah. See, this guy's marriage is falling apart. Look, see, I told you. If you're transparent about those things, then what can they really say? We're like, yeah, you're right. I already said that. You see what I'm saying? And so I think that that's vitally important, man. Nobody wants to be preached at. They want to be preached to. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. There is a monumental difference in those two things. And so going back to the second part of the question, what can we do? Man, I don't have all the answers for that. But what I will say is a lot of what we can do is a lot of things that won't ever end up on social media, because to put them on social media, people would say, well, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. I donated my first vehicle to charity. And from a marketing standpoint, we made a video about it to let people know that we actually have a charity and this is what the charity does. And if you want to donate to the charity so we can do more things, go to this place. That's why you make those videos, because if, no one ever knows you have a charity, how are you going to have a charity?
Right.
And so, but of course, people are coming on and go, if you really cared about veterans, you would have just done this in silence and you never would have recorded it and all this other kind of stuff. So I think it is about going out there, doing the right things when the cameras aren't looking. And what we consider to be the right things as Christians aren't considered the right things to everybody. And that's where we have to go out. We have to surround ourselves with people that are not only like-minded like we are, but are better than we are. I've got a buddy, Jesse. He's younger than me. He's about 4 years younger than me, but spiritually, he is 20 years ahead of me, on his relationship. And so, even being his elder, I look to him for, spiritual guidance and things. And another thing I want to say real quick, Mike, because this is just a conversation I had just yesterday. I think as Christians with our platforms, there's a fine line. And this is something that I've been stirring with a little bit myself. There's a fine line between speaking the truth because it needs to be spoken and simply just trying to stir the pot, right?
Yeah.
And so I think with the platforms we have and the influence we have to have that discernment between the two. Are we saying this because it needs to be said despite the backlash from it? Or are we saying this because we know that if we say this way,
Yeah.
it's gonna get a big response, right?
Yeah.
And so, but there's a fine line there too. We have a business to run, just like everything else. And so, I think being, uh, cognizant to the fact of those things, stepping out in our communities, getting involved in our churches, getting involved in the local small groups, going out and volunteering our time in the things that we believe in and the things that are on our heart. The things that I want to do charity wise aren't necessarily the same that my wife wants to do charity wise. She wants to do inner city work. I want to take care of veterans and first responders. See what I'm saying? Everybody's called and convicted for different things, but it's actually doing them. Yeah. Everybody wants to help and everybody wants to donate their time and charity and blah, 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 but then they never do it. That's the point, that's what we need to do. We actually need to do something. Yeah. And so that's kind of how I feel about it.
I was thought about this verse because this is kind of like how I handle haters, and I don't do it perfectly, but there's in Proverbs, back-to-back verses, and you probably heard this too. In the first one, it says, "Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him."
Right.
I've definitely done that with commenters. I've definitely taken the bait. Right? Yeah. The next verse though says, "Answer a fool according to his folly, or he'll be wise in his own eyes." Yeah. So there's like this dance in terms of putting ourselves out there of like, how do I answer? Do I put this? Is this the time to put somebody in their place, or is this time to just say, okay, yeah, just let it go because you don't want to buy into it? It's an interesting dance when it comes to that.
I think it's the line of we speak what we believe needs to be spoken when it needs to be spoken, but we don't get into the game of going back and forth with other people. Like the Young Turks, man. The Young Turks hate me. I'm sure you've seen. I
don't think they like me either.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen Hassan Piker's latest video about me.
I haven't actually.
He got 2 million views out of it. So nice. I did 18 million. He got 2 million off of me. So congratulations. But either way, people were like, here they're like, all right, what are we going to do to go back at him? I said, nothing. I said, we're not going to do anything. And they said, are you sure you don't want to combat him? I said, yeah, I'm positive that I don't want to, go back and forth and have this video off with them, because then I would be validating what they're trying to do anyway. And, it's a lost battle. They're never going to see my side of things, just like I'm never going to see their side of things politically. Right?
Yeah.
And so there's no point. And, I think the best thing that I can do that irritates them the most is that I don't acknowledge them ever. And then I just keep doing bigger videos than they do, and so, it kind of goes with that, man. We say what we say, not for views. We say what we say because we believe it needs to be said. We stand firm in that. I ain't taking the videos down, because I said what I believed needed to be said. If you hate what I have to say because of it, that's just the way it is. I'm not taking it down, and I'm not getting into bickering matches back and forth with other people because there's no point in it. And the Proverbs verse, like you just said, I mean, it says it perfectly. If you engage, then you're basically making them say, I knew it. I'm justified in what I did because now look at him coming back at me, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's it, man.
I like it. Well, I appreciate this, man.
Yeah, man, it was a good time.
We solved all the problems.
Yeah, we
answered all the questions.
Saved the world in this conversation.
There's really nothing left. There's really nothing left. I mean, at this point, we just retire and
we just got to run for president at this point. Dual presidents, not president and vice president, dual presidents.
No, I'd rather you be the president because I kind of want to sit back and do, I don't know, nothing.
Some stuff.
Yeah. Whatever vice presidents do, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, man, I appreciate you having me on. This was fun.
Yeah, I thank you very much for coming on, and I'm really curious because this video is sort of like completely out of the realm of what I would normally do topically on my channel. I'm curious what the response will be. There should be some interesting comments.
All right. Well, find me what you think are some of the best parts, and we'll see if I can push it on my end as well, and let's see what happens.
Cool. All right, where can people find you if they want to become a Graham Allen groupie, if they want to be part of the fan club, if they whatever, if they want to get posters of you, whatever it is that they want, where do they find it?
Yeah, so you can just Google me or look me up on Facebook or Instagram. It's Graham Allen across all the channels, but the show is actually Rant Nation on CRTV, and so that's where you can find me.
I love it, and I am a CRTV member. I don't even get paid to say that, but I am. I have a Steven Crowder mug.
There you go.
So I'm part of the mug club, and I watch you, Crowder, and Gavin McGinnis, and those are like the three that I actually mostly pay. There's a lot of content on there, man. Like I can't even keep up with it all. So it's definitely like
a lot for sure.
Definitely worth it. Like I canceled HBO and I have CRTV. So
there you go. I like it.
It's how important it is. So
all right, man.
All right, man. I appreciate it. See you later.
Later.